Hello, everyone, and welcome to our 79th episode of In the Trenches, Kroll's weekly cyber threat intelligence briefing. Today is the 2nd of December, and my name is George Glass, an Associate Managing Director in the Cyber Threat Intelligence team. Joining me today from the CTI team are Mukesh Nagar, Ryan Hicks, and Sarah Becker. As always, we'll be covering the most recent trends our threat intelligence team is witnessing in the trenches. So let's get into the situation report. First up, a new nearest neighbor Wi-Fi attack has been reported, conducted by KTA 007 or APT28. Vulnerabilities have released their findings into a nearest neighbor attack they observed in 2022. The attack assumes valid credentials have been gained in the instance through password spraying against victim A's public-facing service. Due to multi-factor, however, they worked to compromise victim B, an organization in close proximity to victim A, just across the road. They then pivoted to a device that could access both wired and wireless connection and connect to the enterprise Wi-Fi network of victim A. Authentication for this only required domain credentials with no MFA, therefore they were able to use previously acquired credentials for access. The actor was also observed compromising several additional targets within the vicinity of victim A, displaying a highly targeted and resourceful attack that Vulnerability attributes to APT28, which we track as KTA 007. It's a really, really good write-up. I'd certainly recommend reading that. Some more details on that in the report. Next up, more targeting of healthcare sector in the UK. The Wirral University Teaching Hospital Trust has declared a major incident for cybersecurity reasons, which has affected outpatient appointments. Full details are not known at this time. However, this follows recent ransomware attacks targeting healthcare in the UK, including NHS Alder Hey falling victim to Inc. ransom, according to their ransom site. There have also been major attacks involving Quillen ransomware affecting NHS appointments and procedures for services in London throughout 2024. Remember, if you have any questions or comments, please get in touch with us using cti@kroll.com. So let's get into today's briefing. Today, we're going to cover the following trends our team is concentrating on. I'll be covering a new QR code phishing technique that we are calling CorruptQR. Mukesh will be talking about a newly available malicious VPN client. Ryan is going to take us through a new ROMCOM campaign. And finally, Sarah will be talking about CyberVulk ransomware. So first up, let's talk about CorruptQR. Last week, a malicious document delivery technique was made public by Any.Run from samples that they'd seen on their sandboxing service. The technique uses a corrupted Word, PDF, or other OpenOffice XML file to bypass inline email security tooling. Because the file is corrupt, it's not scanned correctly. The document is then corrupted in such a way that is easily recovered by Word or PDF readers, just requiring a button click, allowing a phishing lure or potentially malware to be sent to a victim without being properly scanned. QR code AITM phishing campaigns associated with this, we've managed to find them going back to August 2024, which corroborates the findings by Any.Run. And POC code to easily create corrupted Word documents such as this already exists on GitHub. There's a lot more technical details in the report, which I thoroughly recommend you read. But some updates from Proofpoint are that they have adapted their scanning technology to be able to find and detect these on the wire, which is really good news. If we just take a quick look at the actual lures themselves, the lure that you can see on the left there contains the company logo at the top, the company name in the title, and a QR code for phishing. And the more generic version, potentially a different campaign that we've been investigating, is on the right there, which bears a strong resemblance to ONC's phishing as a service. There's a lot more details about the targeting and the ways that this campaign works in the report, which I highly recommend you read. And Kroll is actively investigating this and will continue to update our indicators of compromise feed with new campaigns that we find. Next up, I will hand over to Mukesh to talk about NACHOVPN. Over to you, Mukesh.
Thank you, George, and hello, everybody. So NACHOVPN is a proof of concept tool developed by Amber Wolf Cyber. This tool has exposed critical vulnerabilities in popular VPN clients such as SonicWall Net extenders and Palo Alto's Network Global Protects. Attackers are able to exploit unpatched and vulnerable devices by setting up rogue VPN servers to distribute unauthorized updates to the connected clients, thus resulting in potentially malware being installed, credential theft, and even full system compromise. According to Amber Wolf's blog, NACHOVPN demonstrates how vulnerabilities can be exploited in real-world scenarios. The vulnerability arises when VPN clients fail to correctly authenticate with update sources, allowing attackers to push malicious updates via rogue servers. Once the update is installed, attackers are able to gain elevated privileges and allow them to execute arbitrary code as well as infiltrate user systems. Amber Wolf have released NACHOVPN as an open source tool to raise awareness and encourage stronger security measures across the industry. We do recommend that anyone who is running vulnerable SonicWall Net extenders, this is CVE 2024-29014, and a vulnerable Palo Alto Global Protect, which is CVE 2024-59221, to ensure that the latest patches are installed in order to protect against this tool. We also recommend administrators to block traffic to and from untrusted VPN servers or networks until their authenticity is verified. That's everything from me. Back over to you, George. Thank you.
Thanks, Mukesh. And now we go to Ryan for some ROMCOM updates. Over to you, Ryan.
Thank you, hi everyone. So, SET have reported on a recent campaign that saw KTA 394, also known as ROMCOM, exploiting several vulnerabilities within an attack chain that saw the deployment of their ROMCOM backdoor. Vulnerabilities are shown on the screen there. So, firstly, CV 2024-9680 has a CVSS of 9.8. It's a use after free vulnerability in the Firefox browser, which allows for a sandbox escape. Following disclosure by SET, the CV was patched quite recently by Mozilla in October this year. And then secondly, CV 2024-49039 has a slightly lower CVSS of 8.8, but this is a privileged escalation vulnerability in Windows Task Scheduler. And similarly, following disclosure, the CV was patched by Microsoft in this recent November's Patch Tuesday. So the compromises themselves within the campaign began with the victim being redirected from a fake website where the domain had spoofed a legitimate site, and then they were directed to an actor-controlled server that then hosted the exploits to kind of begin the attack. And if the victim is running a vulnerable browser and visits that web page or gets redirected to that page, the first vulnerability is exploited. And then it's basically a chain of vulnerabilities then sort of kicks off, which allows the actor to run arbitrary code without kind of any further user interaction. So all it really requires is that initial browsing, and then they get redirected and exploited. So the first vulnerability that's kicked off is the Firefox one. So that the browser exploitation leads to a malicious library being loaded called POCLAU-IL. That makes use of an undocumented RPC endpoint. And then the second vulnerability, which it then kicks off, allows this library and endpoint to create a scheduled task that launches conhost in hidden mode. That essentially uses PowerShell to then download the ROMCOM payload, which kind of that leads to the rest of the compromise. And the PowerShell uses a fairly standard method of invoke web request, just kind of a standard kind of a call there. So following exploitation, the victim is redirected again to the legitimate version of the website they were trying to browse to. So very quick for the victim, that it appears to them as if they've just sort of browsed, been kind of redirected a few times and ended up where they wanted to go, whereas this kind of happened in the background. So Mozilla have since released a blog post and a patch, as I said, and again, Microsoft have recently patched in Patch Tuesday. So the key recommendation, of course, here is to ensure patching against both these vulnerabilities, and this is kind of really important in mitigating this particular threat, because this is very much a kind of opportunistic attack chain, starting with users browsing and being redirected. So very difficult to perform any further mitigations to protect against this other than patching. So yeah, really highlighting the importance of that. Yeah, that's all for me. I'll hand back to you, George.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Really appreciate that. And finally, for the ransomware roundup, over to you, Sarah.
Thanks, George. So the Cybervolk, it's a pro-Russian hacktivist group originating from India. They have announced a new operation of launching their own ransomware as a service. This initial announcement was made back in June of 2024, while the group itself emerged in its current form around May 2024. So this group has gone through some rebranding. So since the ransomware announcement, this group has claimed various attacks between the months of June and October. So basically, Cyberfolk's ransomware as a service operation is derived from the ASASEC ransomware code. This code was leaked and adapted by various other ransomware groups around June 2024. So according to researchers, the Cyberfolk modified version of the ransomware uses Windows-specific payloads that are written in C++. It is designed to terminate any running processes belonging to either Microsoft Management Console or Task Manager. So upon execution, the payloads drop bitmap images into a folder, they display them, and then prior to any encryption occurring. So when a victim organization's files have been encrypted by this ransomware, a screen is then displayed as seen in the screenshot, showing a timer and payment details to receive the ransom. And this timer is set to 5 hours before it totally times out. Cybervolk has also been observed having association with other ransomware groups, and this is from seeing Cybervolk initially promoting double-face ransomware, and double-face is also believed to be derived from the same ASASEC code as Cybervolk, and it also has similar payload functions. So we are keeping up with Cybervolk just to see if anything else occurs with this group. That's all for me, George.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Really, really interesting update there. And thank you to Mukesh and Ryan for also presenting today. That's all we have for this week. If you have any questions or comments, please do reach out to us using cti@quoll.com. That's cti@quoll.com. Have a great day.